Well, Tom, thank you for joining us. Good to see you. Maybe let's start just by covering some of the main topics or questions or subjects that supporters have contacted you about over the last few months.
Yeah, so it's obviously been quite a busy time, the end of the season on the pitch, and we had some long conversations with people on the way on the train back from Barrow, which we covered lots of different topics. I think one of the ones which I've had in recent weeks, which I think is important for people to know, is about what's the structure of the meetings like, how often do we talk, and from that point of view, I think people will maybe not be surprised actually, because I'll tell everyone that will listen, we're in constant communication as a group, and if questions come into me, I might not always have the answers, and it's very much normally a quick message across to Kelvin or James. And to be honest, I'm always amazed by how quickly answers come back. And from those points of view, if there's then things that I think I want to discuss further that I'm not entirely sure of the answer, or there's things which people have come back to me on, in terms of formal meetings, it's not a case that we sit down at 4 points of a year and decide the strategy for the rest of the club. I think it's about literally on a daily basis. It has eased off a little bit the last couple of weeks. I'm getting lots of messages about signings, which isn't my responsibility. But I think I did have that question, what is that communication like? And from my point of view, there's an open door policy. I think if there's something I want to ask, there's nothing off kind of topic that we're not allowed to discuss, and we'll come back, and regularly we'll have catch-ups, whether it's via Zoom or popping down to the ground to have discussions if there are some bigger topics that are coming up or things that we're looking at. But yeah, I think that was one of the questions I had. I think other questions that people have kind of put to me, especially at the end of the season, were just maybe around about things on the match day experience. Obviously we saw busy games towards the end of the season, and there were maybe queues at kiosks and things, etc. on a match day, and things that we could do to improve. And I think we started to see some of those kind of improvements being made in small steps. We had the outside bar for Cars Bar, and again, everything's a sort of learning curve, from a hospitality point of view. I know from my own experience, getting staff and things are difficult at the moment, and especially in an industry where 1 week you might need far more staff if there's a bigger crowd. But I think those discussions kind of keep taking place. We obviously had the event here in Cars Bar to look at ideas that supporters had, and I think at the minute it's about moving them forward and looking. I've had everything from kind of discussions around, can we use the hill behind us for solar panels to maybe generate electricity and funds for the club, and obviously plans for the East Stand and beyond. So yeah, a real breadth of topics really.
So if a supporter contacts you with a specific question, you would find out and then reply directly to that supporter with the answer to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that direct response is important. So the people who've taken that time out to email me normally, if it's come outside of a match day, we'll do that. If it's on an away day, I've spoken to people on the trains, on various coaches. My answer will often be, look, I can give you my personal opinion, but if you want a club answer, let's go back, let's find out the facts, because often there are decisions that are made. I think one of the things that came up was about the scoreboard over there, and there is a square on it that isn't right, and it doesn't look good. But actually the fact that the technology is obsolete, and there is plans in place to look to replace it, that's information that supporters want to have. So I think that one-to-one communication and replying to emails, I don't think there's anybody I haven't replied to. And again, we might not always agree on answers. I think that's a kind of human nature thing. One of the things that I'd like to do a little bit more next season is maybe ensure we do have these monthly video updates, so that we can share those answers with a wider audience of people. And one of the things I have found, going back to your first question as well, is I knew every supporter has a different experience. They have a different reason for supporting the club. They have a different match day routine. And safe standing is one of those issues that I think highlights that really well. If I look on social media, whether it be forums, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Twitter, all of which I read on I'd love to say weekly basis, but I mean daily. I read them every day. I do read the comments. There's a lot of talk there about safe standing potentially behind the goal and looking at areas there. But what I also perhaps hadn't realised as a fan myself was the strength of feeling for people that didn't want that, and people that have had their seat at the stadium since we opened in 1994, and if safe standing was to be put in, they wouldn't want to renew. And there was quite a strong feeling there from people, and I think that's where I've always said I don't think I can represent every single fan's view at all points of time, but we can put those points of view forward, and then when it comes to a consensus, like I say, those regular conversations might be, Tom, what do we think fans would think of this? And I can go, well, on the whole, here's the current kind of train of thought from, like I say, you pick up on social media. And one of the things that was interesting is, there'll often be some voices that are quite loud and regular, but actually it's those people who might not post all the time that can come up with some really concise points. And, I'd encourage anyone that wants to have a chat to please do get in contact with me. I've got some meetings later on this afternoon where someone said they'd like a conversation, and we open that up, whether that's with Kelvin or James or just with myself. I think we held the talk cobbler sessions with Tom, and they were really, really, really good, just to get people in different settings. And if you'd like to host one of those in perhaps a different area of the county, they have all been in Northampton so far, but I know we have fans all over the county and further beyond. I think my travel budget, which I don't have any, before anyone jumps on that one, might not stretch too far. I know we've got fans all over the world, but obviously if people want to meet face to face, I'm happy to do that and arrange that time.
And how is it best for supporters to contact you if they wish to?
So easiest way, to be honest, just from the point of view that I've got a day job as well, as via email, which is clifftom@hotmail.com. I check that on a every other day basis, so we can reply quite quickly there. And one of the things that I'd love to hear sort of feedback on is how people would like information relayed to them, because I know a lot of people will obviously use the official club website, social media. I've been adamant from the start that it's important for me. I'm incredibly proud to represent the club, and I can't be getting in arguments online because I just don't think it's professional. It's not a good look for myself, but more importantly for the club comes first. I've always said that. I'm a lifelong fan. We want to do what's right. So if you want to meet me for a conversation, send me an email and we'll sort of arrange a time to have that conversation.
And just finally, Tom, how have you found the role so far?
Yeah, it's been a real interesting year, and again, the voluntary role that I did here, you see things behind the scenes that go on. You get to know a few of the players in a little bit more depth, and you realise that our passion lies for the badge, it lies for the club. The results on a Saturday. I've engaged with even more people who I've never met before, who've been coming all of their lives, and it's been great to gather their experiences. And I think once you start to hear that real breadth of what Northampton Town Football Club means to people, your experience is enhanced. The highs have been incredibly high. I must admit that the lows have been real challenges, and there have been times when, it is difficult. And, after Barrow, there were times that I probably just wanted to hide away, if I'm being honest. But we had some great conversation with fans on the way back, and actually it was those sorts of conversations which really sort of inspired me to keep doing what we're doing. I think there's always ways to improve. And from my point of view, as a lifelong fan, I was never good enough to be a player or a manager. And actually this for me is sort of a role which I've, call it a lifetime ambition, I guess. It's just great to be part of the club, and hopefully I can, do the role as well as I can and sort of help the club move forward.